So this year's General Assembly, which was held both in Pittsburgh and online from June 21 to 25, proved to be an enlightening and engaging experience for many of us. With 2,593 voting delegates from 715 congregations across the United States, Canada, Mexico, and the Philippines, this GA addressed crucial matters. They included the transition of our UUA president, the Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray, to Reverend Dr. Sophia Bettencourt. They included the formulation of a new statement of faith, including values, covenanting, inspirations, and purposes. Discussions on complete divestment from fossil fuel investments and accompanying reparations, as well as a variety of insightful workshops. So I want to give you a little taste today of what last week's programming was all about. And of course, I couldn't attend it all because there's only one of me. I mean, there's so many things to attend, but there were a lot of good, interesting things for us all. And some of you did the programs online and have more to share about that. So GA always begins with for me, with 2 days of gathering with fellow ministers at Ministry Days and hearing the historic Berry Street Address, which is actually the oldest lecture series on the American continent and has been a yearly address for 203 years now. Yeah, it was started by William Ellery Channing in 1820 to address fellow liberal Christian ministers and propose a new form of Unitarian Christianity. And the purpose of this address over the years has been for ministers to strengthen liberal ministry, to inspire us and go forth with new ideas. So this year, Reverend Cecilia Kingman delivered a very thought-provoking speech on the alarming rise of fascism, urging Unitarian Universalists not to remain neutral. It was a sobering call to action to support those who are being increasingly marginalized by growing authoritarianism, including BIPOC folk, as well as our trans, LGBTQ plus siblings, and of course women's rights too. Her essay also held up a mirror to areas within our own denomination where we'd been perhaps silently complicit with trends towards fascism. Our children's story earlier, Desmond Gets Free, reminded us how dangerous being neutral can be in times like these, and we only need to look at the history of our world to remember the dangers of neutrality. She outlined principal characteristics of fascism and what we can do to resist. And if you're interested, you can find the talk online, both as a video and as a transcript. And you can participate in an upcoming Side with Love webinar on countering fascism. Because it's a spiritual journey to do this, to make sure that nobody is left behind and nobody is treated without love. In other major GA business, the UUA board emphasized the importance of addressing climate change and rejecting neutrality in this critical issue. Now, while a business resolution proposing complete divestment from the fossil fuel industry did not pass, the board expressed its commitment to climate action and working towards aligning values, investments, and actions. And I want to emphasize that it did not pass not because they didn't believe in the ideas of it, but rather because of some of the wording in the resolution. They applauded the passion and clarity brought forth by the UU youth in this resolution and called for collaboration across all age groups. And the board also vowed to engage the entire movement in meaningful reparations and in siding with love around this. So just like the mice were much more effective when they worked together in our story earlier, UUA co-moderator Reverend Meg Riley called on us to do this work together. That's the beauty of being in a community like this, that we don't have to battle alone. We can do this work together. So, of course, many of you are also probably curious what happened with the Article 2 bylaws revision that I preached on a few weeks ago. And the new Article 2 proposal, moving from principles and purposes that undergird our faith to values and covenants, was discussed at length over several days, and amendments were made. In fact, 13 different amendments were debated, and 5 were accepted, shaping the new proposal that received an 83.6% approval rate for us to continue our deliberations for another year. And you can see the revised accepted Article 2 language in our weekly news and notes. And if you don't yet get that, I invite you to sign up, and we would be happy to share that with you, which lists everything that's going on here. So to incorporate further amendments and suggestions over this coming year, 15 congregations must endorse a proposed amendment, or the UUA board can submit their own amendments for consideration. So those are the 2 avenues now going forward during this year if you want any changes still to what was approved this year. And then the final package will be considered and voted on for adoption during the 2024 General Assembly. The other significant event of this year was the conclusion of Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray's 6-year tenure as UUA president. GA gave us a chance to reflect upon the remarkable accomplishments of her presidency, who was our first elected woman president. When Reverend Susan assumed office in 2017, the UUA faced existential challenges, yet she adeptly guided us through conflicts and hardships by fostering collaboration and embracing possibilities. Her leadership coincided with threats to democracy, the rise of violent nationalism, exacerbated impacts on climate change, regressive measures on human rights, LGBTQ+ rights, women's rights, and of course, the unprecedented COVID pandemic. And in fact, when she was asked what was most difficult during her presidency, with authenticity and courage, Reverend Susan said she navigated us through that pandemic, making tough recommendations to safeguard the vulnerable and the elderly by temporarily closing our congregational sanctuaries. Additionally, Reverend Susan's inspiring guidance led to transformative action and risk-taking, courage, and a shared mission through the You the Vote program. And I'd like to particularly applaud our Chalice community for the diligent efforts in mobilizing voters in key states and earning recognition from Side with Love as a good trouble congregation. So I want to say yay for Chalice folk. Yay for Chalice folk, those of you online and here in the sanctuary who work together to make thousands of calls, wrote cards, and texts to ensure that people got out to vote in key states. Reverend Susan's message repeatedly was clear. This is no time for a casual faith. This is no time for a casual faith. And described as possessing the heart of a pastor, the instincts of an organizer, and the mind of a CEO, she exemplified authenticity and presence amidst both joy and suffering. And undoubtedly, she was the right leader for these challenging times. In fact, the UUA undertook significant transformation under her guidance. Their staff now comprises 32% people of color, with 50% of group directors and the senior executive leadership surpassing 60% people of color. So she made real strides from what it was like before. Reverend Susan and the UUA board also successfully secured $5.3 million in funding for Black Lives of UU, demonstrating a meaningful commitment to transformation, diversity, welcome, and inclusion. And above all, she championed an ethic of love that remains central to our faith tradition. Now, stepping into the presidency for the next 6 years is Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. The slide, it's up? Oh, we need to, they can see it here? Oh, good, okay, good. I just can't see it back there. Okay, I have personal knowledge of Sophia from our shared time at Star King Seminary, where she proved to be a profound thinker, a brilliant theologian, and a seasoned leader. And during Reverend Sophia's installation at General Assembly, Reverend Susan entrusted her with the responsibility of responding to these defining times with embodied care, unwavering moral clarity, and a dedication to future generations. And I want to share a few of the sentiments that Reverend Susan charged Reverend Sophia with. during the installation. She charged her to faithfully deepen and expand the work of institutional and cultural change, continually advancing us towards the beloved community, which is what we do here at Chalice each week and what the wider UUA is doing. Reverend Susan emphasized the importance of not undertaking this task alone and urged Reverend Sophia to intentionally embrace values of equity, compassion, humility, learning, inclusion, and belonging. Secondly, she charged her to inspire and guide us with her theological depth to be the religious people we are called to be. And for her to be our pastor and our minister, guiding us as a faith and people to help us meet the challenges of this time. Finally, Reverend Sophia was reminded to prioritize the care of her own spirit, with Reverend Susan emphasizing that her well-being matters to us all. And I think Reverend Sophia has a vibrant vision for our faith, and it's deeply rooted in connection and community. And I'm filled with anticipation as she assumes the presidency of our Unitarian Universalist Association, confident that she is precisely the leader we need to guide us into this next moment. Finally, my friends, I want to share my experience of attending a powerful workshop called Disrupt Church during GA. It's got a tempting title, doesn't it? What does that mean? Led by the Community Church of New York, this session left a lasting impact on the hundreds of UUs in attendance, all eager to explore the next evolution of church. Now, traditional churches are currently facing challenges as they shrink, age, and many losing relevance in today's world. And the presenters drew parallels to the early 1700s when church attendance declined due to its lack of emotional connection, spiritual depth, and relevance. However, the Great Awakening brought about a revival through passionate itinerant preachers who introduced a vibrant and transformative church experience. And we find ourselves now at a similar inflection point where we must engage people with compelling missions and gatherings that resonate with the current times and their particular needs, and those are ever changing during this post-COVID era. The Community Church of New York, once a large congregation on the Upper West Side, now has only around 100 members. Despite they have two ministers and a substantial staff, including dedicated social media personnel, two of them, for internal and external communications. And recently, the church sold its sanctuary, which is why they can do all of this, while retaining office spaces, and they now share a sanctuary with the Episcopal Church across the street. And they do their services in the afternoon. The Episcopal Church does them in the morning. And this decision freed up their resources and energy so that they could focus on local street ministry. And they even conducted a Christmas Eve service outside in the freezing cold in the streets of Manhattan. And they drew all kinds of people who'd never heard of the mission of Unitarian Universalism. So by embracing change, they have invigorated their mission to make a difference in the lives of those around them in New York. And they've also gained national attention for their vibrant online programs for young people, which focus on teaching practical skills and offering project-centered classes that explore the meaning of life and skills through mediums like photography, for example. So the community church prompted us to reflect on the purpose of church. Is the sanctuary the only place where church happens? Who is welcome? And how can we make them feel welcome? And they discussed the shift from being subjects to consumers to citizens. Are they seeing the slide there? Now, for centuries, society acted as subjects to the ruling elites, monarchy, and church hierarchy. And with the advent of the Industrial Revolution and the rise of capitalism, we became consumers, expecting the church to serve us and provide content for our consumption, akin to a theater experience that we go to. However, the Community Church of New York suggests that we need to now transform from the consumer narrative to becoming citizens who recognize our interdependence and responsibility to one another and the planet. And this next slide illustrates the difference between these three stages. Instead of approaching church as consumers who demand to be served and complain if our needs aren't met, CCNY encourages us to commit to the mission of our congregation and to each other. As citizens, they encourage us to believe in our agency, to envision and build a co-created world, as we sang in our opening hymn, "We'll Build a Land." And this paradigm shift emphasizes engagement over entertainment and fosters collective power, moving away from individual ownership and isolation. So they challenge us to stop hoarding resources and start sharing, promoting collaboration with other local UU congregations, like our BIPOC group does, for example, as well as forming more partnerships in the community. We could become a hive where people gather, find inspiration, let ideas flow, assistance is given, and then the nectar from our hive is taken out into the world to share. Do you like that vision? I believe we already embrace that citizen model to a great extent, and even that hive model, but we can always do more. And as we contemplate our future and a possible move within the next year, we must ask ourselves what our wider community truly desires from us. What needs can we fulfill in this Conejo Valley? How can we support the aspirations of young people, such as providing skills for employment? And how can we be better allies to those in need and marginalized by this society? What if church were an intentional space for joy in hard times? A space to learn in community, a space to have fun together, to nourish and refill our wells, a place where you get to grow into the best version of yourself and then go out and serve the world more effectively. The concept of disrupting church has raised thought-provoking questions which I believe deserve careful exploration as we enter this year of discernment for Chalice's next steps. What if we were not limited by traditional norms such as mortgages, buildings, debt, and so forth? Just throwing it out, what would that free us up to do? How could we better serve the community's needs? Because that's what disrupting church is asking us to explore. It's asking us to think out of the box. And I think that's really important as we head into our year of discerning next moves for Chalice. So GA, as always, was filled with valuable information, ideas, and inspiration. And next year's fully virtual event aims to provide everyone with the opportunity to reflect, to reset, and participate in GA at a reduced cost, ensuring greater accessibility and a smaller carbon footprint, which is really important. So if you've always wanted to attend General Assembly, I highly recommend trying virtual attendance next year, where we're going to vote on the final adoption of Article 2. And then in 2025, we will gather in person once again, and this time it'll be in Baltimore, Maryland. My friends, I'm genuinely excited about the future of our faith. We are challenging outdated norms, transforming with the times, embracing a renewed vision, and have the privilege of being led by Reverend Dr. Sophia Bettencourt in these transformative times. I invite you, all of you, to stay connected to our wider denomination, to be informed, and play your part as a citizen of this community and beyond. May it be so. Thank you.